Hi, and welcome back to the third installment of Chapter 3, Consonances versus Dissonances. If we're talking about a consonant interval, we're talking about anything that's perfect and all major and minor thirds and sixths. Those are the only things that are consonant. Dissonance, major and minor seconds and seventh, and anything that's augmented or diminished. So if you have a diminished third, it's dissonant. It's not consonant. Orally, dissonant intervals want to resolve. Is this going to be on the AP? Probably not, but it's important to know. It will be an extra credit on the test. Okay, compound intervals. Compound intervals are larger than an octave. So simple is within an octave, compound is larger than an octave. But the thing is that the same rules apply. It's just you move the bottom note up to make it a simple, and then you add 7 for every octave that you've moved it. And so let's just do a small example so we see it in practice. So here we go. Let's get, let's be fair and do a bass clef. And let's have an A down here. And let's have an E up here. Whoa, that's really big. So if I move this A up here, up an octave, it's much easier to count. A to E. So if you want to do it on your fingers, A, B, C, D, E, that's a fifth. Let's just carefully count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have a fifth. In the key of A major, 3 sharps, there is an E. So we're talking about a perfect fifth. But I've moved up an octave, so I have to add 7 for every octave. So it's really a perfect 12th. Now, if you don't believe me, and I don't believe me, so let's count. Let's go down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It is a 12th. In the beginning, I always double checked. Even now, like every school year, I will double check to make sure that in fact that adding 7 for every octave that I've skipped works. And it does. And so I encourage you on the problems that we do in class and at home to, just double check yourself. Okay. So, again, this is going to be a place where I'm going to say it's good if you pause and copy. And I will tell you what the important interval fluency tips are. There's really just only a couple. So thirds, fifths, and sevenths are always going to be on 2 lines or 2 spaces. And it's just because they're the odd numbers. Number 2, seconds, fourths, sixths, and octaves are all on 1 line or 1 space. You'll get used to seeing them on a staff. Now, number 3 is one of those ones that I would put a big star next to and ingrain in your memory. This is one of the only ones that I remember from year to year. Fourths, fifths, and octaves are always perfect if the accidentals are the same, except for when we're talking about B and F or F and B. That's one of our, that F and B, okay? Fourths, fifths, and octaves will always be perfect as long as the accidentals are the same and we're not talking about F and B. Now, if we're talking about F and C, it still applies. It's only when it's F and B. Number 4, seconds are major and sevenths are minor if the accidentals are the same, except E and F and B and C. Again, we're talking about those, the notes where we have 2 white keys together. Again, that one is not one that I would memorize. It's number 3 that's important. Number 5, thirds on C, F, and G are major if the accidentals are the same, and thirds on all other notes are minor if the accidentals are the same. Again, as long as you know your key signatures, you're going to get the right answer. Number 3 is the one that you want to memorize. Have I mentioned that number 3 is the one that you want to memorize? And here we go. Sixths, whose upper notes are C, F, and G, are minor if the accidentals are the same, and sixths, whose upper notes are the other notes, are major if the accidentals are the same. It's really just about inversions. But again, number 3 is the rule that you want to memorize. And 7 is amazing. 7 is really what you want to memorize too. Other interval qualities may be quickly determined by reducing the interval to the non-accidental form and noting the effect on interval size when the accidentals are replaced. I will show you an example of that because this is the other important one to note. So, if I have a really crazy interval, let's see here, I'll go into treble clef since I've done a lot of bass clef intervals. And let's say I have F sharp to A flat. That's pretty nuts. And I don't want to try and figure that out. I don't want to think about anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take all that stuff away. And so now I'm left with F to A. In the key of F major, which is 1 flat, I know that I have an A. So I know that I'm talking about a major third. So let's add that F sharp back in. Now I have F sharp to A. And if I put my hands together, I know that when the bottom note comes up, I'm making it smaller. So my major third goes to a minor third. Okay? Now I'm going to put the A flat back in. And go back to my hands, and my top hand is going to come down. So I know I've made it smaller again. So my minor third has gone to a diminished third. And it's really just that easy. One last little topic is transposition. So when I'm transposing, I'm taking a melody and I'm putting it in a different key. And there's many ways that I can do that. I can do it by interval, and number 1 is probably the most popular way to transpose, and it's the way we are going to transpose, which is where I decide that everything is going to go down or up by whatever interval. So that's shown in example 1. Number 2 is actually kind of cool, where you just change the clef. If you just change the clef, you know, the key signature stays the same, and you're really just probably changing the octave. And number 3, tonal and non-tonal transposition. That's where you're either including the key signature or you're including accidentals. When you're doing it by interval, usually you are changing, number 1, you're changing the key signature. Changing the key signature really helps you don't have as many accidentals. If you're just going to do it by a tonal or non-tonal transposition, if you don't include the key signature, you're going to have a lot of accidentals. So I recommend changing the key signature for sure. And that is the end. Oh, we're going to do a special separate video on ear training.